This is KLEAN Radio.
Welcome everybody out there listening to KLEAN Radio. And back in studio is my co-host, Andrew Spanswick, who's pretty much an expert in all things addiction and mental health.
Thank you, Judah.
It's always good to see your face in the studio.
I continue to enjoy working on you.
That's it, which is actually, can I tell you something? It brings me to what I want to talk about tonight, because I want to go on a bit of a rant. And this is all your fault, because you've actually, in the 4 years we've been doing this, I've grown to really learn a lot. And one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is, I was driving over here and I was thinking about, I have glasses. I have spent a lot of money on my teeth, and I've spent some money on my mental health. And the three things, I mean, and this is amazing to me. We live in a country right now, right, where a lot of people have health insurance, but the three things health insurance do not cover very well are your brain, your glasses, and your teeth.
Exactly.
So pretty much everything above your neck, our health insurances do not cover. The three most important things. And we wonder what's going on.
Your heart's pretty important if it doesn't work.
Your heart's very important too, but the three things above your neck are not being covered. And the reason I want to talk about this tonight so much is because it's mental health. And we, constantly, we're going through so much in our society right now. We've had the shootings, we have obesity problems, and when it comes to the obesity, right? What do we say? Oh, let's figure out the solution with the food, right? What are they eating? What are they not eating? Instead of dealing with why are people obese. With the shootings, we look at it after going, well, guns are the problem. This is the problem, not why are people shooting people. And we're constantly we don't want to deal with this. We don't want to deal with the problem, which is why are people doing this?
A lot of it also is an American mindset. You go to other countries and where things are more homogeneous and people have sort of a culture that's more stable and not as diverse as ours, and you get patterns of cultural behavior that are more set in stone. And so things like public health are easier where you try to get the whole population to act a certain way, work better than they do in the United States, where you have a variety of different cultures all melded together and operating differently. So it's hard to have public policy in America where you change individual behavior because there's so many different kinds of people doing different things, and it's just almost impossible. So we've sort of come to rely on this idea that public policy should be created around actions or things that we can control that then limit people's options. And now we're seeing that failing. Bloomberg, for example, and nobody can order a giant soda. I mean, that's an example of us saying, okay, we can't control the fact that people want giant sodas, so we're just not going to let them have it at a place where they want to have it.
Which is terrifying to me. Why are we not looking at why kids are obese in the first place?
Why is it that someone needs 64 fluid? I mean, when Coca-Cola first came out, it was 8 ounces. Right. And now, I think most people would be pretty upset if they only got an 8-ounce Coke.
Right. I would be upset. Right, because you're like, you go to a restaurant, where's my 10 refills?
Yeah, well, we drink soda like people used to drink water, and then they'd have soda as something special. And now soda is what people drink primarily.
So what is the solution? And that's what I want to ask everybody out there that's listening. And it's hashtag what's the solution on Facebook.com/KLEAN Radio, at KLEAN Radio on Twitter. I want to know, what's the solution? This isn't, what is it?
I mean, there's a bigger problem, which is, and not to get too academic here, but from a macroeconomic scale, there's something called elasticity of demand, which means that, for example, with appendectomies, right? If you say the government will pay for all appendectomies, or all insurance companies have to pay for every appendectomy,
right,
there's only so many appendectomies that are going to happen every year, right? Just because you give insurance out doesn't mean there's going to be a lot more appendectomies showing up at the hospital. Basically, if you need an appendectomy, you're going to the hospital, and most people that need an appendectomy get one, even if they don't have insurance. But if you say, we'll supply mental health treatment to everyone that has a problem with mental health, the system would be swamped. Same thing with eye care, and the same thing with dental care. If you said all of a sudden, anyone that has a cavity,
come get it filled.
Come get it for free, you'd never get a doctor or a dentist appointment because they'd all be completely jam-packed. And
Well,
these are thought of as elective. Where as a society we train people to think that seeing, having good teeth, and having good mental health care are elective options, when in fact the public policy is set mostly by economic availability, the ability to get enough dollars into the system to actually fix it.
I know you said that might sound, but that's actually an amazing point. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio, so give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Hashtag tonight, what's the solution? And everybody's got a different theory. Everybody's got a different opinion. But the one thing it drives me crazy on is that, like you spoke about with Bloomberg, let's ban the Slurpee. Let's ban the unhealthy foods. Let's ban the guns. Instead of actually looking as a society of what is going on. Why? What is it that this is what it's come down to? That kids are going to to donut shops and doing all this different stuff, and just gorging themselves and putting on weight. Because no matter how healthy you make the food at school, you're not dealing with the issue of why they're.
The other thing is we have a lot of abundance. I mean, if you look at throughout history, America really didn't have a middle class until the Industrial Revolution. And that gave this huge group of people jobs where they actually earned enough money to own things that only the rich and elite used to be able to own. We also were able to make a lot of food very cheaply. So all of a sudden people had money and they had access to food. And petroleum products have basically made it possible for us to grow huge amounts of food that we normally wouldn't be able to grow, as well as grow unhealthy food.
Right.
So now we have a lot of very unhealthy food out there.
And a lot of unhealthy people.
And a lot of very unhealthy people who are living really beyond the means of what the earth was supposed to support in terms of a human population. So, and we also have a very entitled sort of middle class now that feel like that they should be able to get and do whatever they want without restraints. And when it was just King Henry VIII, getting fat and cutting off his wife's heads, it was probably fine. But, when you get now where it's, everybody in the middle class wants to get divorced every 5 minutes and eat whatever they want, the consequences are much more widespread and large in their effect on society.
So if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Reason I wanted to bring this up tonight is I think it's an extremely important issue. I think this isn't a right issue. This is not a left issue. It's a human issue. And we have so many issues that are going on in our country. I think if some people would just say, what's the solution? And we have an honest dialogue and we just talk.
Well, a lot of people believe that anytime you talk about anything that's collective in our country, anything that involves everybody, anything that's like a right for everyone, all of a sudden that means socialism. Yeah. And that's unfortunate because we really actually are all very alike, if not basically exactly alike for the most part.
We the people for the people.
Yeah.
And next story I also wanted to get into is it's another horrible thing, and this the Seattle shooting, and I want to give our affiliate station KVI in Seattle has done an amazing job reporting this story about the Seattle shooter. And here's the thing: he stopped taking his meds.
All right.
And this is a very common thing when it comes to people taking their meds, is that they stop taking them. They don't stop taking them because they want to act out. Mm-hmm. They stop taking them. Why?
Well, there's several reasons. Yeah. One is that most people that are taking medication and get better believe all of a sudden that they really weren't sick and they therefore don't have to take the medication, or they want to test to see if maybe they're better now. Nobody really wants to be chronically taking medication unless they have to. And it's hard to remember. If you're doing well, you don't really want to have to be on a regimen of taking pills all the time. So that's one main reason. The other one is that we see often is that the effects of the medication the side effects can be, not nice. You can have sexual side effects where people become sexually dysfunctional. You can also have other issues like weight gain is a real big problem with women with a lot of antidepressants and a lot of antipsychotic medication. So, these things that seem like, me being mentally healthy and stable versus me gaining 20 pounds, a lot of people choose the vanity. Our culture is so hung up on vanity that it's so much more important to be not 20 pounds heavier that they won't take medication that stops them from having really serious mental health problems.
And I think it's really important to talk about this. we talk a lot about on the show about different programs, about whether it's rehab, whether it's outpatient. And one of the things, and I used to say this jokingly, and I'm saying, what is it that the women, for birth control, they have they stick inside that it automatically works. What's that thing called? It gets put inside. You say it because I have a mental block.
Neuroplans.
Yeah, right. So for years I've been saying, why can't with meds we do the same thing? Why people that are bipolar, can't they have...
We do now. We have controlled release medications, but still it's very, these are very powerful medications, and so they have to actually be released. And it used to be you have to take them all the time constantly. Now we have controlled release tablets, still a little bit better, and there are shots, for example, you can take a shot of Depakote and basically you're good for a month.
Oh, wow.
So there are some mood stabilizing drugs that can be used with a needle or a syringe, but it just pills are the much easier way to do things, and so and it's much more. You have a much more constant level of medication in your system, so it's the better way to do it. Unfortunately,
people stop.
It's hard to keep people doing something when they feel better.
And so, one of the things I thought about is, a lot of times when you're starting to work out, you have a running buddy. You have somebody you go to the gym with, right, every day. And the importance of when you start on taking meds, when you start on getting better, with the 12 steps, you have meetings. And there aren't really med buddy support groups. But
well, I think certainly, one of the biggest things to improving somebody's outcome is having a family or a friendship, a relationship that's direct,
right,
that will help, keep track of your medication. It's very easy to lose track of what medication you've taken, whether you take it in the morning or not. And having a system, with a pill box and a friend that makes sure you're taking your medication and monitoring you, and if they notice that you're off, getting you back on, that's something that can be extremely helpful.
And it's why outpatient programs are so important. And what is an outpatient program? Because a lot of people don't know. We use terminology all the time.
We're always like IOP, PHP,
right,
RTC,
right?
And it's funny because those things all mean different things in different companies.
Right. It could be IHOP.
Yeah, right. IHOP.
Right.
Well, so we have in the mental health space and in the substance abuse space, there's what we call a continuum of care. So it starts with the lowest level, which is outpatient care at a physician's office or at a counselor's office. And then from there, you go to what's called IOP, which is intensive outpatient programming. And that means that basically you live at home or you live in a sober living or you live in a community care center and you come in 3 to 5 times a week and you get services, medication management.
Which is so important.
Therapy, group therapy, living skills, stuff like that. And then from there you go to residential care, which is where you actually come in and you live somewhere and you, like the traditional rehab is thought of. And then before that, but more acutely, is detox, where people come in and they actually detox off medication. Then you go back to the other end of the spectrum where you have sober living and outpatient care again. So there's this continuum of care, and people come in and out at different places in these levels of care depending on what they can handle, what works best for them. And contrary to most people's belief, most people that are mentally ill or have a problem with addiction don't necessarily need to go into a rehab at first. A lot can use outpatient services and continue to be productive as they get better.
And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That's Andrew Spanswick, pretty much a specialist in all things addiction and mental health. And I don't know why I said that so excitingly. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Hashtag tonight is What's the Solution. Go on Facebook.com/KLEAN Radio or at KLEAN Radio and let us know your thoughts. Let's go to Ann calling from Salem, Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Ann.
Hi, this is really, you hit it right on the head. Everything above the neck isn't covered.
Thank you. Every once in a while, Ann. Thank you. And we're going to actually record that.
I offer Judah free haircuts all the time, but he turns me down. So
sorry, Ann, but go on.
I didn't mean to make it funny, but I guess it turned out that way. No, why I'm calling is what I'm frustrated with is I've been on disability for quite a while, and if I would have gotten help as a child with just a minor thing with my eyes, a little bit of accommodation, but you got to be a certain amount blind, you got a certain amount this or that to get a disability. Why don't they do it proportionately, like instead of having to, wind up on disability so you can get a good job, so you can afford to get your teeth fixed? And
yeah, I mean, like I said, all of these
for anything else in your body.
And, you're exactly right. It seems strange that we wouldn't do more preventive care or early onset care. In fact, what I find surprising is how much our government actually does do. We actually do mandate certain types of eye drops and things when you're a child to make sure that you don't get certain diseases and infections. A lot of this also is that our general population that's highly religious actually has a movement against people having to have certain things done, especially to children. Like there's this big anti-vaccine movement, which I disagree with incredibly. And so is America's always had this fight between citizenship and rights and what the government should do, and then sort of the individualist in America that believes that it's the responsibility of the individual to get done what they need done. I think both are sort of vague ideals, and neither of them are going to ever solve the problems that we have. There has to be a blend of the two that works for everybody, and I certainly would encourage that people, talk to their politicians and talk to people about, providing preventative care, especially for children that, are unable to do it on their own.
Well, mine wasn't preventative. I had all of the eyeglasses and everything. I just didn't see right because my eyes are mismatched, and it may have been because I was born early. I mean, they didn't have the answers, but why couldn't they have helped me with the SAT test so I couldn't see the test? Why couldn't it have been oral? And why?
And you raise an amazing question. I want to thank you so much for the call. And again, hashtag what is the solution? It's what Ann is talking about is what we face as a society right now. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because we are in the mental health profession, and we're about helping people. And I'm going to tell a little secret that not a lot of people know, except unless they listen to KLEAN Radio, is that Andrew Spanswick has been doing this for tons of years, and you give away a lot of beds. You try to help as many people as you possibly can. But like you said, if we were to give away everything, right, there wouldn't be enough doctors out there.
Well, what we found out also is that if you give away treatment for free completely, the outcomes are incredibly bad.
Right.
So there has to be some sort of level of participation, of some sort of exchange or consideration between the patient and the providing physician. The other thing that's a problem is that within the medical system is that if government takes over everything completely, then everybody feels entitled to all that treatment, and they believe it's the government that's providing the treatment, not the physicians and the caretakers that are providing the treatment. So it used to be if you lived in like a small town and, in the 50s and the 60s, and you went to your doctor and your local doctor, and everybody knew who the doctor was, and you went to the doctor and you didn't have any money, that doctor would take care of you for free, because he would receive narcissistic rewards from the community. The community would value the doctor. Doctor might, get nicer meals at the deli or whatever because they help people. And it was important to have that doctor. But now everybody sees that it's the government that pays or the insurance company that pays, and they don't really care about the doctor. And therefore, to some degree, the doctors don't care as much about us as individuals. We become just something that has to be processed through a system so that they can get paid by the government. So I think we really need to look at, what are the incentives that make patient-doctor relationships positive, and how do we make sure that the rewards, not just financially, but career-wise, emotionally, go to the doctors.
Which is breaking the stigma, too, because getting people into getting mental health care, right? Because so many people hear mental health and they go, I don't want that being attached to me.
Right.
And how am I going to get a job after? All these different fears. It's not just always the ones, there are rational fears.
Yeah. It's getting a lot better, but
there's still that stigma.
And part of the reason it's getting better is that the treatment's getting better, And
if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. Let's get a John calling from Portland, Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, John.
Hello. I just wanted to make a quick comment. I told this call screen that I've been smoking marijuana for 45 years, and I actually done the math while I've been waiting here, and it's been 38 years. And as of June 1st, that just passed there shortly ago, I quit using totally, and I went on Wellbutrin, it's called.
Yeah.
And it seemed to, I got it from my general practitioner or whatever, and it seemed to hit the spot in my brain that all of these years it seems like marijuana has hit. But now I quit it over the weekend because I went to the pharmacist, and my blood pressure went, sky high. It just, what they were thinking you should maybe go to the hospital.
John, can you hold on? Because we got to go I want to take this call, and I want to give you the fair time that you need. So just hold on, and we're going to get to you after the break, okay?
Okay.
Okay, John, hold on. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. And I actually, we're not right at the break, but that's a call that's going to take a couple seconds because we were talking about this last week, and John's actually raising a great point, Andrew, and that's when people detox. You know, one of our dislikes of certain shows on TV is, you know, the detox process. And how dangerous it is.
First of all, marijuana is fat soluble, so that means that he's been smoking for 38 years or whatever, marijuana. So it's been building up and accumulating in his body for years. And what you often see with people that come off marijuana after that long period is panic attacks and a lot of other things. So that could be part of it too. But certainly, I never recommend like getting off something like that without having like a real good physical. And then as soon as you have any issues like that, to not just see a GP, but someone that really understands withdrawal and detox.
And so one of the things I actually we're going to be going to break in a couple seconds, but one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight, obviously, is hashtag what's the solution. Go to KLEAN Radio, Facebook.com/KLEAN Radio. Tell us what you think the solution is. Go to @KLEAN Radio on Twitter and tell us what you think the solution is. But I think we're asking what's the solution with mental health care and all this stuff. But there's still so many myths out there about mental health. One of them is, you know, one of them is a myth. One of them is not a myth. One of them is you saying people taking it and they actually have side effects. And they have to make the decision, do I live with the side effect or do I not do something crazy?
Also, does society have a right to force people to take medication that have real serious mental health issues that can cause psychotic breaks and homicidal or more importantly, suicidal? I mean, there's twice as many suicides as there are homicides in the United States. So, you know, these are serious problems and some people need to be medicated whether they like it or not. I mean, and that's just the reality of where we are. So, but that gets into all sorts of issues with civil rights because a lot of these medications, you give them to someone who's psychotic and all of a sudden they're not psychotic and then they can get in front of a judge and they can, look, I'm fine. I'm taking my medication. I'm not psychotic. And then they go out and they stop taking their meds and 30 days later,
they go psychotic.
And they have a psychotic episode. So,
and that's so important. Something that we talk about is you know, finding people that are in common with you that are on meds, whether you going to an outpatient program, finding a support group for people. And it's also important once a week. We've been doing this here at Clean Radio. We're supporting a bowling league. I have to talk about it because it's a lot of fun. We do it at Pins in the Valley every Wednesday night. And it's for sober people. And it's actually a lot of fun. Come bowling with us. It's important that you do that, Andrew. It's important that you find things when you start taking meds, when you get sober, you find things you enjoy doing that people around you are doing so you don't feel isolated and alone.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was ironic that, you know, I was going by the 12-Step store on La Cienega in West Hollywood, and the big sign out front is "You are not alone." And I think loneliness is really one of the central issues with addiction. Not only do people feel isolated, but, you know, a lot of the reasons that people start to use drugs is to be social and start to use alcohol is to be social. And once they become addicted and it becomes a problem and they become the person that nobody wants around, and they certainly don't want to be called at 4 a.m. because you still want to stay up and drink and do drugs, then you find yourself isolated and alone, and then you start drinking in the morning, you lose your job, stuff like that. So this is one of the major issues that we have to address.
So if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. John, we're going to get back to you after the break. Give us a call. Hashtag tonight is, what is the solution? We want to hear from you. Give us a call.
Are you or someone you care about addicted to drugs or alcohol? Addiction ruins lives and destroys families. Bring an end to the pain and suffering by calling KLEAN Treatment Centers. KLEAN has helped people from around the world break free by not only treating the addiction, but the underlying causes and providing vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean with no gimmicks and no false promises. If you need immediate assistance or just have questions, call KLEAN Treatment Centers for guidance. A much better life awaits.
Welcome back to Clean Radio. My co-host with the most, Andrew Spanswick, is back in studio with us tonight. And I always miss you when you're not here. Let's go to John, who we've had on hold for a long time. John, welcome back. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
So you quit smoking pot. You quit smoking pot June 1st. So that's 9 days ago. Or 15 days ago.
Okay, right.
I was testing you.
Okay.
And you passed the test. So, John, you were smoking for 38 years.
Right.
What
was your answer to having high blood pressure? Did you go to your doctor?
Yeah, I go to my doctor. My doctor's, my blood pressure has been totally fine, and of course when I took this self blood pressure test at the pharmacy, and I thought, well, maybe it's just the machine's wrong, and then I went up to the pharmacist. They actually took me in the back, and they took my blood pressure, and they said, "Are you having chest pain or anything?" And I said, "No, nothing like that. I just don't feel right." And then they said that could be, it's rare, but it's a potential side effect of Zyban or Wellbutrin or whatever you call it.
Yeah, it's the same drug. Just so people know that are listening, what John's talking about is he was given a drug called Wellbutrin, which initially was given for people as an antidepressant, but they found out that people were quitting smoking off it. So it's the only drug on the FDA market that has the same name, but is the same drug.
Oh, there's a few others, but
it used to be at least.
I mean, Viagra, they have a female brand. I forget what it is, but anyway, go ahead.
And I know I need help, but now I'm right now I'm just laying in bed, and I've got one of those stupid medical marijuana cards that they charge you for. I got to give the state $200. That's another story, but I just don't want to go back to that. But I'm kind of at the point where I know I need help, but I'm so inexperienced at this, I don't really know what the next step is. Maybe I should go back to my general practitioner.
No, John.
Wait. I think that there's probably a combination of things that you need to be concerned about, and not to worry you, but the most obvious is that you've been smoking for a long, long time. So you're doing something dramatic to your body by stopping smoking, and that's not something that really, without professional care, you should just stop. It's a huge effect on your body. And also your mind. And there's a lot of anxiety issues that come with stopping smoking marijuana. It's your body and your mind have rewired after all those years to expecting to have that substance in your body. So you really need to be with a professional that understands withdrawal from medication. A lot of people think that marijuana isn't physically addictive, but that doesn't necessarily, even if it isn't physically addictive, and there's a lot of debate about that, it certainly has a physical effect on your body. And if you were to do anything for 45 years and then stop right away, probably even eating Big Macs, if you stopped eating Big Macs after 45 years, you might have some chest pains, right? So you might be having anxiety issues, whatever. So you need to go and you need to, first rule out everything. Is there a possibility of heart problems? Is there a possibility of anxiety disorders? Are you having withdrawal from the marijuana exiting your system? Is the Wellbutrin not agreeing with you, which is quite possible as well? And the good thing is Wellbutrin is one of many SSRIs or antidepressants that are available. So it might not be the one for you. There's a lot of different ones.
I had a
lot
really
of different
bad
options.
allergic reaction to Wellbutrin.
It's Wellbutrin's. Yeah. There's a lot of people that have had problems with
panic
Wellbutrin.
Attacks, horrific.
There's other people though that have done very well with it. So it's a medication that's useful, but it's not necessarily the answer for everyone. So I'd encourage you to go back to your GP, get the physical screening, and then talk to him possibly about if he has a referral to someone that deals with detox or addiction. And if he doesn't, give us a call back. You can go to our website and get our actual direct number, and we can help you find someone in your area. You're actually in Salem, or where are you?
No, he's in Portland.
Oh, we're actually opening an IOP there probably in a few weeks. So, we might even be able to help you in the coming weeks. So.
What he said is we're opening up an outpatient program.
Yeah, an IOP.
we're not opening
intensive
up an
outpatient program
in Portland, Oregon. We're not in the pancake business.
My poor mom doesn't even know what an IOP is. It's an intensive outpatient program, Mom.
Most people don't know what it is. John, I'm going to tell you what. If you want to stay on hold, Rand could get your information. It's totally private, and any help you need, anything you need, John, because like Andrew said, you just stopped after 38 years. It's not trying to scare you, but it's, like you said, you stop eating Big Macs after 38 years, something could happen.
Yeah, and John, stop smoking pot is much better than what you're going through in the short run because, the health effects of smoking marijuana are not really well studied yet. But clearly smoking something every day that's unfiltered is not good for you.
No, it's not.
And,
just on a physical level.
Yeah, and then we do know that there's issues with memory loss and brain damage. And as we now are living longer because of better health care for cardiovascular illness like heart disease and problems like that, people that, the lifespan's going out, we're finding all these new types of illnesses that used to be fairly rare that are now coming up a lot, like TIAs, which are little mini strokes in your brain. So
Right.
it's really important that, you start working on trying to, improve your health from smoking substances that do cause these problems.
Right. And like I say, I know I do need help. It's just I just don't know.
So stay on hold, John. I'm going to tell you what. We're going to help you walk you through this process because, Andrew, you know what? It's terrifying.
Yeah,
You
no.
know, he stopped smoking pot 15 days ago. You don't know which way is up in some ways.
Yeah, and John, there is a lot of help out there. There is a good way to deal with this, and I applaud that you're trying to make the steps. The thing is, you got to get the right level of care with the right people that understand what they're doing. Otherwise, you're just going to be sort of left out on your own with a lot of fear and anxiety, and that's the last thing I want you to have. I want you to see this as a positive experience, that you get through it and you get healthier and you have a good outcome.
Okay, John, just stay on hold.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Just
Take
stay
care,
there.
John.
We'll talk to you in a second. And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. That was John calling from Portland, Oregon. And what John's talking about, everybody needs to hear. It's not sometimes just as simply as quitting. It's not just like I quit drugs and I quit alcohol. It's what the stuff that comes after.
Well, there's a whole process to it. It's not like you just use or you don't use. I mean, and especially things that are physically addicting. Like you would never tell a heroin addict that's been shooting up twice a day to just stop.
Just stop.
I mean, they do it sometimes. They throw them in prison, but a lot of them get very, very sick, and a lot of them don't quite make it. So, we've come a long way in our understanding of detox and how to have better outcomes. And the truth of the matter, there used to be a belief that if people had a hard detox, they would be less likely to use again, because the experience of detox is so awful that they would think that people would never want to go through it again, so they would never use. And we found through studies that that's the exact opposite, that people will start using again because they can't stand the feelings of detox.
And one of the things that John's going through right now, obviously the isolation and the loneliness, and one of the reasons
and the lack of quality information.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's amazing to me. It's the pharmacist doesn't say, well, it could be the Wellbutrin, but
it could be.
And maybe he wasn't willing to tell the pharmacist that he stopped smoking pot after 38 years. And then pharmacists aren't really trained to deal with addiction either, nor are
general practitioners.
General practitioners, yeah.
Let's get to Joe calling from Salem, Oregon. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Joe.
Well, hi. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
How's it going?
Good.
So you got a question for us,
how
Joe?
can we
or
help you, Joe?
What's going on?
I don't know how to present it, more of an observation or looking for your observation. And, well, like today, I took my boy's baseball game, so he had a ball game.
Joe, you broke up for a second. Joe, you broke up for a second. Can you say that again?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I just got done with a normal family function, if you will, watching my boy play baseball.
Cool.
But I've been using crack cocaine for about 12 to 14 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't, it's taken over a little bit. I've been on the job for almost years, 4 10-hour days.
Okay.
Well, Joe, we're losing
having
your call.
Joe,
Maybe you could call back, and I'll just talk about what little I heard. One of the things that I think is a real myth is that people that use drugs are actually like what you see on the news. Like
And Joe,
people
please
just
call back, by the way.
Yeah, try and call back because your phone was just, when you get in a better area, try and call us back. There's a lot of myths out there that the typical drug addict is the person that's like living in the streets. And the reality is there's a lot of people that use a lot of drugs and are still pretty high functioning. There's a lot of consequences to smoking crack cocaine other than losing your job. So a lot of people can keep their job and smoke crack cocaine, but you could have a stroke at any moment from smoking crack cocaine.
Right.
And I just the years I've spent in psychiatric hospitals with addicts, and they have no use of one arm, or they're slurring, or people that have died, people that have ongoing seizure disorders. These are real consequences of using a substance that, 1, is unregulated, 2, is extremely dangerous, and 3, really doesn't have anything good going for it. I mean, nobody really does anything great because they smoke crack cocaine.
And it's also what your definition of functioning is.
Yeah, that's also true as well. I mean,
Joe has just left his son's baseball game.
Right.
And he's going to smoke crack cocaine. And what we always talk about is, shouldn't the baseball game be enough? What is it that you need the crack cocaine for?
Well, the weird thing about crack cocaine, too, is
I love how we're saying
there's the difference between physical and psychological addiction. crack cocaine and cocaine in general isn't quite as physically addicting as other drugs like heroin, where you have to take it over and over and over again once you get hooked on it, once your body becomes physically dependent on it. So a lot of people can play this game for a long time with cocaine, that they can do it recreationally in smaller amounts. Maybe they'll have a binge 72 hours, and then they can stop using it for a couple of weeks, and they think, oh, I just partied too hard that for those 72 hours, I don't really have a problem with it. But the reality is they can't stop doing it. They're still waiting for the time that they feel good enough, or that they have enough extra time, or they'll make time. They'll take time away from other things to go on a binge.
And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. Joe, call us back. One of the things I wanted to talk about quickly tonight, you just talked about something very interesting, right? Where you were talking about our past caller, and you said the information, the lack of information that people have. Mm-hmm. And musician Lana Del Rey, who's apparently got one of the biggest songs in America, came out and basically said she wants to die.
That's the first time I heard that song.
Yeah.
Maybe I could maybe tell her that she could. I'm not gonna say it.
But she wanted. Andrew's a snob when it comes to music, and she wants to die. That's horrible. Actually,
she
looks up to the 27-year-olds that have died. She looks up to the
27 Club.
The 27 Club, and she says, "Why? This is a girl that comes from everything you could want, great family, all these different things, and I'm happy she had the courage to say out loud that she basically she wants to die and she hates it."
Right.
And
that's what's weird. I mean, I have a lot of friends in the music business, and it's a horrible business.
Yeah.
I mean, as a performer, especially if you have one famous song, that's what everybody wants to hear, and you got to play it night after night after night, and it's just not fun. And losing your freedom and all the things that you think you're going to get that you don't get, it's having people scream and wanting to get a piece of you or know you when you have no knowledge of them is not a pleasant experience. And unless you're really prepared for that and understand that going in, that that's something that you're doing really just to make money and express your art, that's really the only value you're going to get out of it. So,
but I want to commend her. A lot of people look at this and go, oh, why could she be so miserable? At least she's coming out and saying, I'm unhappy. At least we know. At least she's sharing out loud. And it's also,
and people are like, oh, she's just a spoiled brat because she's famous, and now, oh, look at me, poor me.
Because fame takes away mental illness.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody believes like, oh, rich people, how could they ever kill themselves? And the reality is, or successful people, how could they ever kill themselves? And we see a lot of rich, famous people kill themselves. Yeah. And the thing is, feelings don't change just based on how much money you have in your wallet. Or in your bank account. Feelings for people are the same no matter what. And the liabilities of existing and living a life are still there for everyone. And in fact, money often amplifies the negative as well as the positive.
I always say money doesn't change people, it just shows you who they really are.
There's a lot of truth to that. Or potentially the really horrible things that are lying underneath it. It accelerates how quickly they come up, and it doesn't give you time developmentally to actually work through your problems.
And I really hope people listen to her. I really hope people say, you know what?
Well, and have empathy for her. Yeah.
And not ridicule, and not, and another story that came out was Cardinal safety Tyrann Mathieu, thought about committing suicide while he was in jail. The former famous honey badger from your home state, your second home state, and he wanted to get. And what led me to look at this story was I always read the comments underneath the posts on ESPN, and if you ever want to be scared of how American society is just out of their minds, read the comments under the stories.
And the internet in particular, where people don't.
But somebody posted, they were like, "Yeah, this is all." But you smoke some pot and you think about suicide, like the relations, and the guy was 21, 20 in jail, blown a college football career, but at least he was honest to come out and say, I wanted to commit suicide. And I like Lana Del Rey, Tyrann Mathieu, you're my heroes of the week. Because
my thing is, there was probably underlying depression to start with.
Exactly.
And he was self-medicating with marijuana, and the whole thing blew up in his face. So we don't look at these things as issues and problems. We're still sort of in that old time schooly idea that if somebody engages in a certain behavior, there's something morally wrong with them. That there's something that's broken with them. The funny thing I find about that is the same people that say those kind of things are the people that say that religion will solve all these problems for them. So it's not the fact that people are broken. We expect that people have problems and are broken. but we blame people for trying to help themselves unless somehow they connect themselves to some sort of religious group. And I haven't seen any evidence that really does much better either. So.
And if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. We're running a little bit out of time tonight, but give us a call. The number is 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. And there are a lot. The reason I say they're my heroes of the week is because, Andrew, they have enough courage to come out and say that something's wrong. You know, so many people, as they're struggling, as they're going through issues, they want to scream out loud, something's wrong. And, you know, you take the case tonight of the guy in Seattle, right? He went to police in 2010, and he said, I need help. I have a rage inside me, and I don't know what to do with. And they didn't listen to him.
Well, they have nothing that they can provide him with.
Sort of like, yeah.
There's no services for them to help him
Which
with.
is sort of the theme throughout
like,
tonight's...
you know, you go kill somebody and we can help you out.
That's, that's exactly, and that's the theme through tonight's show, it seems like. When we're asking hashtag, what is the solution? It's almost like it's so scary to talk about and say... and we have so many clinks in our system that don't want
to me, it's a lot like, you know, the anti-gay rhetoric we heard in the 70s and 80s, and especially with AIDS and everything, where, you know, everybody has a gay cousin. You know what I mean? Somewhere down, if you're not gay yourself, there's someone in your family somewhere that's gay, whether you want to admit it or not, or whether they're able to come out and say it or not. And the more people that have come out and said, hey, you know what? My cousin's gay and I like him, and he's, you know, so it becomes less of a threat as you realize that it's actually all around you, that these issues are normal. You know, mental health problems are not something that are the fault of the individual. It's something that happens. It happens a lot, and it affects at least one person in your family.
Yeah.
So if not half of your family or your whole family.
So you better get used to it, because we're here to stay.
Yeah, we're here to stay.
And with that, let's welcome back to KLEAN Radio. Last time he was a candidate for assemblyman. And let's welcome back to KLEAN Radio, Michael Bloom. He actually won his seat for the council,
the neighborhood council,
and we got cookies.
And we got cookies from his beautiful wife tonight. Yeah. And you know, one of the reasons
we're gonna have more politicians in.
That's exactly right. And he's young, and he's trying to do something. He's trying to change the system.
It's great.
And I love that he's been doing this for years. He volunteers all over LA. And he won. The good guys won.
Yay.
And yay! And it's an honor to know you. And I was in the store yesterday. He works at this amazing store called Western Kosher. We actually do a lot of our food shopping for our kosher clientele at KLEAN. And we were talking about this crazy election last week, and I said to him, "You never know. You know, you're walking around to 1,000 different houses away." Right. For being the mayor of Los Angeles.
Right.
and
grassroots.
At grassroots, and that's how it's done. And one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight is we have in all communities, they have major issues, but in all communities there's a stigma sometimes attached to those issues. You're an observant Jew. Are there stigmas in your community attached with mental health and addiction?
Of course.
Well, thank you for that very elaborate answer. Two-word answer, of course. Thank you.
No, you're like Judah's worst nightmare.
Definitely like any other, or shaking his head,
just like any other community.
You
know, everybody tries to bury it and hide it away, but it's creeping out, and everybody's seeing that it's really out there, and it's a problem that we can't hide anymore.
So you're a guy. You've really dedicated your life to helping people, but in a sense, you've also broken certain stigmas that you march to your own beat. You know, you decided. You know, it's a good way of saying it, because you ran for office to help people. Did you feel, you know, he posts really funny things, Andrew. I got to tell you, follow this guy in post, because he'll tell you everything that's wrong with the school system and the school his kid goes to, and which I enjoy reading.
Must be fun to be his kid.
It must be fun.
As long as my kid's school's not listening to this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. But you've decided, in a sense, to go your own path.
You could say that.
I'm going to say that, and thank you for these amazing radio answers, Michael Bloom. And you have an amazing charity event coming up next week that you also wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I'm helping American Friends of Magen David Adom. They have a blood drive and safety fair. The blood drive is going to be benefiting Children's Hospital and Cedar Sinai. And you can find out more information at afmda.org/LA-preparedness.
We're going to put a link up on the site, and people should go to Cedars and donate some blood.
Well, it's actually, the event's at the Skirball Center.
Okay.
And they'll be dedicating 3 ambulances, which will be sent to Israel. Magen David Adom is Israel's national emergency medical service. So this event is going to be benefiting American Friends of Magen David Adom, but there's over 30 organizations there, including the LAPD, LA Fire Department, FBI, you name it, all about emergency preparedness, earthquake preparedness, and the blood drive benefiting these two local amazing hospitals.
And you definitely took away a lot of our loyal listeners that might come because you mentioned the FBI is going to be there, government organizations. You might not.
I don't know if we want bloodborne illnesses in our
no
blood
drug
supply.
testing. No drug
No
testing.
drug testing. And,
But don't live use a needle because
We have the National Bone Marrow Foundation is going to be doing swabbing, and it's just an amazing, great event.
And I think tonight when I said, what's the solution, and I posed that as a question, people like you are the solution. People out there that are looking to change stuff and talking about stuff and having dialogue. It's what Andrew wanted to do when we started the show, was have dialogue. We don't always have the answers.
There aren't a lot of answers,
Yeah.
and that's, for things that we don't have answers for, that's why it's great that people come out and they work on things and they dedicate their lives to trying to find answers.
And that's what I love about Dr. Coe when you ask him, Jason Coe, when you ask him why medicine works, and he goes, I don't know.
Most of the time he doesn't know.
He doesn't know, and
That's true.
he's honest about that. And I think if we had more professionals that are answering questions like that, going, I don't know, but let's get some help.
we really don't know how aspirin works, and it's a drug that most people use every day for a lot of reasons. But it's amazing how much we just know from things that we guess at and work on, but we don't know all the physiology or the exact way that it works in the body. And we've done a lot of work on genomics and figuring out genes and everything like this. But now we need to go back into physiology and start figuring out actually the mechanics of how these things work, and work with genes and work with the rest of the body and work with cells, and especially brain cells. And now that we realize that there is this holistic view of the body and the brain, and that there's neurons that go all the way down to your stomach, and you have almost as many nerve cells in your gut as you do in your brain, or about half as many. Some people, I guess, it's probably equal, but it's
That's
important.
how you know you're smart, when you're joking about medical stuff,
Right.
and you make yourself laugh.
I make myself laugh.
That's how you know.
It's my greatest downfall, is I like to laugh at myself. So.
And Andrew, as always, welcome back. We have a great guest coming up next week. We have Will Dog Abers from the band Ozo Motley. And that should be actually really exciting. Michal Bloom, I want to thank you coming in. You actually really do march to the beat of your own drum.
You're welcome.
And
It's great to be here again.
you're one of my favorite people.
Congratulations again.
And they put the
Thank you.
different strokes on theme song in the background. Thank you, guys. And Michal, it's great. Go to the Skirball Center next weekend. Go to the link on the site. We're going to link it up. You're a good man. You're answering the question, what is the solution? You're out there actively meeting. And everybody out there, what is the solution? Well, I'm going to tell you the solution this Wednesday night. I want to see everybody that's trying to get clean and sober at Jerry's in the Valley, at Pins in the Valley. Come bowling with Clean. It's our Clean Summer Bowling League. Andrew's going to be there.
I can't believe that Jude is promoting his bowling league.
Andrew
on our
will be
show.
there. Michal is actually, I'm going to force him to come down. Patrick, the best all-around guy, the best guy that shoots a show ever, is going to be there. I want to thank all our fans out there. I want to go to facebook.com/KLEAN Radio. Like us, talk to us. The discussion continues at KLEANradio.com.
Are you or someone you care about addicted to drugs or alcohol? Addiction ruins lives and destroys families. Bring an end to the pain and suffering by calling KLEAN Treatment Centers. KLEAN has helped people from around the world break free by not only treating the addiction, but the underlying causes and providing vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean with no gimmicks and no false promises. If you need immediate assistance or just have questions, call KLEAN Treatment Centers for guidance. A much better life awaits.